Pokémon is a turn-based RPG game, where you play with a party of 6 Pokémon. What would happen if I just ignored this? If I tried to finish the game with only 1 Pokémon instead of 6? Don't you need more Pokémon to beat the Elite Four and the Champion? That's what we're gonna find out in this video. So I started up a new game of Pokémon Fire Red and named myself Mango and the rival Kirby. Gosh, I hate Kirby. Then was the most important choice of this game. Which starter should I choose? Charmander, my favorite starter from this generation, looked really strong on paper, but he was weak against the first 2 gyms, the rock type gym and the water type gym, so Charmander was just out of sight. Now I had just Bulbasaur and Squirtle left, and Bulbasaur was just a much stronger pick, since he was able to put the enemies under status effects, such as sleep and paralysis. Squirtle depended on his brute force from his water attacks, so I chose Bulbasaur and named him the Chosen One. My rival, Kirby, had chosen Charmander, and in our first fight, I won, of course. And I was off on the first route, where I also encountered my first Pokémon. And this is also something I haven't explained yet. I was not allowed to defeat any wild Pokémon for EXP. This would make the challenge way too easy. I also wasn't allowed to use any items in battle, which meant no potions and no recovers. So the challenge actually brought some difficulty with it. The first trainers I had to fight were in the Viridian Forest. They all had these bugs like Weedles and Caterpies, so the first few I had to tackle till I killed them. But when Bulbasaur turned level 7, he learned Leech Seed, so now I was able to heal my HP back while fighting the Pokémon. When I made it out of the Viridian Forest, I healed Bulbasaur at the Pokémon Center and immediately went to Brock's gym. This was the rock type gym, and like I said earlier, this was going to be very easy, because Bulbasaur is super effective on Brock's rock type Pokémon. And indeed it was. I just Vine Whipped both of his Pokémon and I one-shot them. After the fight, Bulbasaur got level 15, which meant he could now learn Sleep Powder, so I took it instead of Growl without a doubt. There were a few trainers on my way to Mount Moon, and most of them had a Pidgey, who were super effective on my Bulbasaur. So I had my first whiteout. Shortly after, Bulbasaur reached level 16 and evolved into an Ivysaur. Mount Moon itself wasn't too big of a problem. Most of the trainers in there had rock type Pokémon anyway. Inside Mount Moon, Ivysaur reached level 22, which meant he was able to learn Razor Leaf, so I replaced Vine Whip with Razor Leaf. When I reached Cerulean City, I went to Misty's water type gym, and it was actually harder than I thought. Staryu was easy, but Starmie dealt a lot of damage and Ivysaur missed his Razor Vine. But in the end I managed to beat Misty and claim the Cascade badge. Nugget Bridge wasn't too hard either, just a lot of bug and water type Pokémon. So I just helped Bill get back to his normal form and he gave me an SSN ticket. How nice of him. Back in Cerulean City, I beat the Rocket Grunt guarding the house, and I was on my way to Vermilion City. When I arrived there, after walking to the underground tunnel and beating some more trainers, I walked straight onto the SSN. I immediately went for the rival fight, and honestly, I was having trouble with it. Almost all his Pokémon were super effective on Bulbasaur, so after a few whiteouts, I went to beat every other trainer on the SSN first and then came back to the rival. And after a few tries, I beat him, and Ivysaur evolved into Venusaur by the way. After, I ran upstairs and picked up my first HM, Cut. Now, you need to use HMs to progress through the game, but there's a problem, that if you teach your Pokémon an HM, you can't unlearn it, so you're pretty much stuck with it for the rest of the game. I decided to allow an extra Pokémon just for HMs. That means using it in battle wasn't allowed. I had already thought about this up front, so a few routes back I caught a Meowth and named him HM. Now that I had the HM cut, I was able to teach it to him and we were able to access the 3rd gym. I thought this gym was gonna be hard, but it turned out to be a cakewalk. I was able to easily beat all of Surge's Pokémon and I barely took any damage. Then I had to go through Rock Tunnel, where I was super effective again. I didn't even have to go back to restore my PP. When I got to Celadon, I went straight into the big store and bought a TM that contained Secret Power. And I also taught it to Venusaur, of course. I did this because up until now, I was still stuck with Tackle. And Venusaur himself didn't learn any good normal type moves for the Pokémon that are immune to grass. I felt like Secret Power would be my best choice here, since it has 20 PP, 100 accuracy and 70 power, which made it basically perfect for this. With my new learned move I went to the 4th gym. This was the grass type gym. And with me having stronger Pokémon, I won first try actually. Before I were to leave Celadon City though, I still had to clear the Team Rocket game corner in order to get the Silph Scope. That wasn't too hard, especially beating Giovanni was fairly easy. So now, with the Silph Scope under my belt, I went back to Lavender Town and up the Pokémon Tower. I'm not even joking when I say that I one-shot literally every Pokémon from the Ghost Trainers. But there was one problem though. At the last stairs there was a Marowak, which you can't catch or just walk past. And in order to progress you have to defeat the Marowak, which left me no choice but to kill it. I got past the Marowak and saved Mr. Fuji from the Rocket Grunts. Mr. Fuji brought me back to his home and handed me his Pokeflute. On my way to Fuchsia City there was a Snorlax laying around blocking the path. Luckily I still had that Pokeflute in my backpack. And I did have to catch this Snorlax, because otherwise I had to kill it and that wasn't allowed for this challenge. Luckily, catching Pokemon doesn't grant any EXP in this generation, so we're good to go. Once I arrived in Fuchsia City, I went for the gym battle with Koga. He has a poison type gym, which is strong against my grass type. His minions before the real fight weren't a big deal, because I one-shot all of them anyway. But the fight itself? Different story. It was very tough. I couldn't one-shot any of his Pokemon because of his high levels. After some tries, I got good RNG and I was able to beat him and get my next badge. After the gym, I quickly went to the Safari Zone to collect HM Surf and Strength. Meowth couldn't learn any of these HMs, so I had to use a different Pokemon. Snorlax was perfect, so I taught Snorlax both HMs and fought all the trainers in the water. With Venusaur of course. The Seafoam Islands cave is a puzzle I have to figure out every time again. But after pushing all the boulders into the holes, I went on and reached Cinnabar Island. This is where Blaine's gym is located, but the gym doors were closed. So I went to the Pokemon Mansion and found the secret key to open the gym's doors. This gym is a fire type gym. I expected this gym to be the hardest one yet. And man was I right. It took me a lot of resets to finally get a good run in. The strat was to just use Sleep Powder on all of his Pokemon and defeat them with secret power. And at some point it worked, with some really good RNG I must say. After the gym there was this section where Bill takes you to an island and lets you do some extra quests for him. The only reason I did that was to get some extra EXP, because of the fight I just had. After the island section I now had 6 badges and went back to Celadon City to pick up the 7th. I got to the grandma in the building next to the Poké Center and she gave me a cup of tea. Then I gave that tea to the guard that was guarding Saffron City and he let me through. But I wasn't able to do that gym just yet. It was being guarded by a Rocket Grunt, so I went to Silphco. The first thing I did was collect a keycard so I can open all the doors. Then I just defeated every single Rocket Grunt in the building. We also had a difficult rival fight, but I was able to get it after a few tries. Giovanni himself wasn't hard, cause he had all ground types. Then there was Sabrina's gym. I was really overleveled, so that was just a free 7th badge. The last gym was back in Viridian City, Giovanni's gym. This was supposed to be the hardest gym, but it really wasn't. I beat him on the first attempt and I barely took any damage. Now, with my hands on all 8 badges, it was time for Victory Road and the Elite Four. I showed the guards all my badges and did the puzzle in the cave. Once the boulders were put in their place, it was time for the Elite Four. Now, I already knew this was going to be really hard, because I don't use any items in battle. So I decided I was allowed to save after every Elite Four member, so I could just reset without losing any progress. The first battle was Lorelei, the Ice Pokemon specialist. I thought it was going to be the hardest of the 5 fights, and well, it was pretty hard. If I ever got frozen once, I already just lost. Plus Ice Beam was super effective on Venusaur, so I needed to prevent that by setting her Pokemon to sleep. And that's what I did. I just set them asleep and spammed Razor Leaf, and I beat her. Bruno, the fighting type trainer, was super easy. I don't have much to say about him except for that I beat him first try. After the fight I quickly healed up and went to take on Agatha, who had ghost type Pokemon. It wasn't too hard actually, it just took a few tries. Now Lance was a different story. He would always open with his Gyarados. I easily beat him every time. But then was his Aerodactyl. He had the move Scary Face. This made my speed fall by a lot. And that made the next Pokemon, Dragonite, very hard. Dragonite used Safeguard at the start every time. This makes it so his whole party doesn't get affected by any status effects, including my Sleep Powder. And because he outsped me, I had no chance of beating him. But then, one run, Lance did something different. He brought out his Dragonite second. That meant that I was faster than him, and I was now able to set him to sleep. The rest of his Pokémon were easy now, and I actually beat Lance on this attempt. There was one last thing standing in my way from becoming the champion. My rival, Kirby. This was the hardest fight in the whole game. It took me so many resets, but with the perfect RNG, I knew there was a way to beat it. And after an hour of resetting, I finally beat it. Pidgeot was easy. I just had to hit my sleep powder and hope he doesn't wake up for 3 turns. Alakazam was even easier. Hit him with sleep powder and defeat him with secret power. For Charizard, I didn't even have to get hit with perfect RNG. Executor was just a long fight cause he also uses sleep powder. Rhydon was such a pushover. And lastly, Gyarados, the water type. I was crowned the champion. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. It takes me a lot of time to make these videos and it would help out a lot. I'll see you in the next one.